Hey guys, Evo here. So we just got a new update for SWTOR, and I got a chance to hop in, go through the story, see all the changes that it made to the game, and I just want to sit down and discuss my thoughts. I would highly recommend going into the new story content blind, so if you do not want any spoilers, go ahead and skip the story section, and I will keep the gameplay footage after that fact as spoiler-free as I possibly can. There still will obviously be some minor spoilers for the Daily Hub and whatnot. But yeah, with that said, let's just go ahead and jump in and talk about the story, which is by far my favorite part of this patch. So the main story of this patch is only about an hour-ish long, maybe an hour and a half if you push it. It's not terribly long, but this is by far one of my favorite stories they've done in a minute in SWTOR. I really enjoyed going through this one, and I just had an absolute blast with it. One thing I really appreciated was that the presentation was, like, really top-notch, especially coming off, like, Manon, where it was a little bit more toned back. This went all out, and we had tons of fight scenes, and I'll just jump right to the chase. The big battle between Heta and Shae Vizla and all these big set-piece moments were, like, really well executed, and it was surprisingly ambitious given what we've been getting. Now, that isn't to, degrade what we've gotten. I've loved the story patches up till now, but this definitely feels like the most big-budget affair we've had in a minute, and I really, really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, obviously, this is still SWTOR, so there are still some presentation issues, like mainly the pop-in whenever the camera angle changes, or your lightsaber not being on, but you're using it to kill people. Those things are still here. That hasn't changed. But I think at this point, if you're this far into SWTOR to get to this story content, I think you've kind of accepted that, and you've even learned to love it. It's just a part of the package at this point, but even so, I still think this patch wildly exceeds the previous patches we've gotten in terms of, like, camera work and just spectacle on display. This feels very much like we got teleported back to the 2 Nights expansions for like an hour-long story campaign. It was awesome. So not only was the presentation really top-notch, it also allowed you to make some really interesting choices throughout the campaign. Now, I have no idea how much this actually impacts what happens, because I've only done this on my Sith Inquisitor. I haven't done it on my Trooper or any of my other gazillion characters that I still need to catch up on. So I'd imagine you really don't get to influence that much with these choices, just given the nature of these story contents and patches. I'd imagine it's just some dialogue changes, right? But there were a number of these that, like, made me stop and think about what I was going to say next and what choice I was going to make. So some of the interesting choices that existed were, like, how to deal with the standoff with Sahar. So, like, you and Shae Vizla come on Sahar. Shae's very aggressive, and you have to balance between trying to get information out of her and cooling down the situation. And I really like that. It makes me stop and think. Like, I think, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Shae will still shoot the window and Sahar will run away without you learning anything, no matter what you say. But it was really fun to go through that dialogue exchange and be like, I don't know what's going to happen. Shae, chill the fuck out. Okay, Sahar, what's going on? Right? Like, it was really fun, and I really liked that. Another example of that, and probably the main one of this patch, would be the duel between Heta and Shae Vizla. And you find out, unsurprisingly, that Shae is being sabotaged, and then you get to choose how you influence the duel. Do you just shut the thing off and let Shae and Heta go at it, and the winner is the winner? Do you sabotage Heta? What do you do? And I really liked that choice, and I was like, ooh, okay. Shae's getting beat up right now. She may not come out on top, but, she'd want it for her honor to just not sabotage Heta and let her win it fair and square if she's going to win it. So I really liked that. These choices were really interesting, and there were a few points throughout the story that I paused and I was like, oh, okay, what do I want to do here? Which was really cool and really fun. I liked that a lot. So overall, the narrative of the patch follows Shae Vizla going to fight Heta, right? That's the thrust of the narrative, and then it culminates in this big showdown between the two. And it's just awesome. That showdown is so well done. It is so ridiculously good. Like, I loved Heta's speech. And as a matter of fact, one of the best things about this, I remember when I made my review of I forget which patch it was, but it was the one that Heta got introduced in. I was like, oh man, Heta seems really interesting. I can't wait to see what they do with her character. And, yep, they made her character really cool. I like Heta now. I cannot wait to see what she does in the future. She has some really cool motivations, and I'm really interested to see how her feelings of inadequacy at this point are going to start clashing with her Mandalorian honor and whatnot as she's trying to lead this group of Mandalorians to overtake Shae Vizla. So I'm really curious to see how this is all going to play out. And all around, just this story was really, really good, and it turned Heta into a character that I really liked. It made me like Shae Vizla even more, and yeah, this was really good. This story doesn't just focus on setting up Heta and Shae Vizla, it also focuses on setting up Sahar and Rakan, who we still don't know too much about, but I really like these characters. This story patch made me like them even more, and I can't wait to see how all of this comes together when the Malgus arc is combined with the Mandalorian arc, and all of this plays out. So I'm really excited to see where they're going with the future in it. Again, this is yet another setup patch for SWTOR. They've been doing these for a minute now, where it feels like the story has just been building up to something greater, and it is getting slightly old. I really hope we get a full expansion for it, but we'll see. I actually think this chapter, more than most of the other story patches that we've gotten, stands really strongly on its own, even disconnected from like the Malgus narrative and the Sahar and Rakan stuff that's been going on. I think this is just a really, really strong showing, just like a really fun hour-long story. As I've iterated multiple times, I'm really excited to see where the story is going to take us from here. I really like all the characters that have been established, and each story patch is making me like them more and want to see where their stories are going more, so, I mean, that's a success, right? I've had a really good time with this patch, so yeah. Now, the other part of the story is following Lane Vizla, and this part, it's not that great. This is the planetary mission, it's obviously not on the same level as the main campaign, but I just didn't find this all too interesting. A lot of the quests felt like they were just dragging out playtime, like sending you all across the map to multiple different locations, with very little interesting dialogue or anything happening in between, and it just wasn't very interesting. It was all about the War Basilisk droids, right? And they're cool, I like them, but they're only in it at like the very, very end, and it doesn't really feel like it builds to anything. And yeah, this story was fine, it was good enough, it was entertaining for the runtime, I suppose, but it didn't leave me with that much, especially compared to the Shae Vizla arc that we just went on. The main story of this is exceedingly good. The Lane Vizla arc is just kind of like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And they continue to do the thing that really annoys me, and I'm just going to go on a mini rant if you'll indulge me. I don't know why we keep using this interface. This, like, old KOTOR interface. I get it, it's nostalgic, whatever, but it looks so god-awful, and I don't know how they are, like, they think it's a good idea to use it. I genuinely don't understand, because there are multiple points where, like, the black bars just cut off important parts of the shot, and it just, like, obscures 2/3 of your screen, and then I absolutely despise this, and I really wish they would stop using it, because it looks awful. Like, it is really bad, and I hate that they use it here. I just wish that this whole thing would just disappear, and they would never use it again. But it doesn't have too much of a negative impact on the story. It just, I really hate that. It's a pet peeve, and I get annoyed every time I see it, so I'm ranting about it for the first time. So overall, I think the story was really good. I had a great time with it. It's relatively short, it's not that long, but it is really, really good. I really enjoyed the Shae Vizla stuff. The Lane Vizla was okay, but yeah, in my opinion, the story is definitely worth coming back for. It's very short, it won't take that long. I don't think you even have to subscribe to get access to it. It's just a really good, fun story. I really liked it. Moving on to the Dailly Area. To get the obvious out of the way, the Dailly Area looks really good. I mean, that's kind of expected at this point, but yeah, it looks really good, and I really liked exploring it. The main downside I had with it, at least initially, I didn't think I was going to like this, because the environment is really irritating to navigate initially. There are tons of hallways that connect to other hallways that lead to other locations, and there are quests in those hallways, and it just becomes really irritating to figure out, okay, how do I get there? What tunnel am I supposed to go to that connects to that tunnel that connects to that tunnel so I can get in here? And I, at least on my first day of doing dailies, found it relatively irritating, and while I had fun, because I was, like, exploring the area and I was doing the quest for the first time, it wasn't that great of an experience. However, after doing the relic hunts and finding the new holocron, I got really familiar with the map, and I sort of learned all the locations and how to navigate it, and then when I went back on my second day of dailies, I actually really enjoyed it, and I didn't find the navigation to be an issue at all. I found it to be really easy, because I sort of had an idea of how everything maps together. So just a heads up, if you haven't done it yet, pay attention to the map, because figure out how all this works, and it will make your experience a million times better when you're doing dailies on the planet. The environment is really easy to navigate, it's just confusing if you don't know where you are or where you're going. In terms of the quests themselves, the Daily Hub is fairly standard, there's nothing that's really going to blow your mind here, but for what it is really good and I really enjoyed doing it. Most of the quests are, go here, kill this guy, kill 5 of these, loot 5 of this, right? Very basic MMO stuff. But it is carried by the visuals and the environment, and it's just really fun. But this is some good, solid SWTOR Daily Hub content. If you liked it in the past, you will like it here. This is a good Daily Hub. I am definitely planning on getting to Legend status with these guys, not just because I find it really fun, which I do, and I want to do it anyway, But there are actually good rewards this time, which is like a rarity for reps these days. Like looking at the non-rep armor set that you got, it's like, oh, okay, I mean, I guess I can get that. Most of the rewards are still player housing items, which I'm not super into, so I don't really care that much about. But they actually give you a really cool Mandalorian armor set for this, and that is really awesome. I really appreciate the rep rewards actually being like really good. Like they could put this on the cartel market and I'd be like, yeah, that tracks. So like the fact that this is available from a rep vendor is awesome. I love this set. I want to get this set. The mount is okay, it's fine. But yeah, that armor set is really, really, really cool. So I cannot wait to get to legend status in order to use that. As you're questing and doing your dailies, you're probably going to notice these things called relic hunts. Basically, these unlock power-ups similar to the Manon abilities for you to use throughout the zone. I didn't find them to be too useful outside of the rocket jump. That one is amazing and is really useful for navigating some of the more vertical sections of this map. But the relic hunts themselves have you finding data pads and piecing together clues in order to track down these relics. Now, as much as I want to tell you to go through and like search for the clues, I'd honestly recommend looking up a guide. These can be relatively obscure, so unless you are like really familiar with the map and you really want to go searching, it is probably best with the assistance of a guide. But I do recommend doing these first off because it really gets you familiar with these locations, which makes doing the daily experience way better. But also, getting these at power-ups is a pretty neat thing to do, good thing to have, right? So yeah, there's that. Also, for the first time in like a long time, there's been a new holocron added to the game. It gives you 10 mastery. In order to get it, you need to get all the relics and then go through a jumping puzzle. I actually really enjoyed this puzzle. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, obviously it's relatively short-lived because it's a jumping puzzle, but I really liked having a holocron be added back. I don't know why these disappeared. I would love to see more of them. They're really fun to go after. They're really cool. Surprisingly enough, there was actually an achievement that I really liked in this zone, which, you know, I don't think I've ever said that before, but it encouraged you to play with Shae Vizla and kill Mandalorians. Now, it's a very small thing, right? Like, you just kill 150 Mandalorians with Shae Vizla. Okay. But the reason I like it is because it really reinforces that fantasy of, like, fighting the hidden chain with Shae Vizla and fighting Heta. And I don't know, it was just really cool, and I liked being given a reason to use a companion I don't use that often. Like, I normally just stick to the HK unit and, like, hardly ever use anything else. So, really good to get a change of pace from that for at least a little bit. They also added a new world boss this patch, which is something I was not expecting at all, but I really enjoyed fighting him. I thought the fight was really fun. Unfortunately, you're going to have the continued issues of SWTOR, as in, there isn't much of a reason to do this. The only real reason would be to get rep, but you're going to easily hit your rep cap just by doing the dailies. I really wish that SWTOR had like a pre-made group finder, like something in WoW, where you could easily find other players, because without that, getting a group together to do this is really not that worth it. I got a group together just because I wanted to kill it, I wanted to see the content, right? And people were asking, oh, what's the reward for it? And I had to constantly be like, oh, well, nothing. It's not really worth doing unless you just kind of want to do it. And I was able to get a group together, we did it, and then it didn't track. Thanks, BioWare, never change. But I had a good time doing the world boss. It didn't have any crazy mechanics, but it was a fun little fight that I'm glad I went out of my way to do once. I'm never going to do it again unless they add a pre-made group finder. Add a pre-made group finder. Please, I'm begging, please add a pre-made group finder. So that's kind of everything that is added in this new zone for this new story and all that stuff. There are some rather significant overall changes that I want to quickly go over. One of those being UI changes that got implemented. Now, I've sort of been whatever on most of the UI changes implemented. I haven't really felt really strongly about them either way. And that kind of continues here. Most of these are just kind of okay. Like, the bar on the top left was brought in line with the center bar. Like, that's a thing, I guess. It's fine. I don't really find this stuff too impactful. Most of the UI reworks that they've been doing, I have found to be completely superfluous, and I'm just like, I mean, you guess you could do that if you really want to. I don't know if that's helping anything, but have fun with doing that. However, for the first time in the history of these UI revamps, they have done something I actually like, really love, that I think is absolutely awesome, and it's the map overlay. They made it so when you press M to open your map, it doesn't open that big blocky panel. It opens like an overlay on the right of your screen, and it makes navigation so much better. Like, it's really great. And you might be thinking, hey, I haven't seen this throughout any of your gameplay footage. Why is it not there? Well, for whatever reason, it didn't activate for me, and then I had to go on my trooper because I was looking at that Manon armor set, and then I was like, wait a second, this map's different. And this is way better, so I had to go back on my main and figure out how to do that. But it is really good. Like, this is a really, really good change that just makes playing the game so much better, because you aren't pressing M all the time to open this big blocky panel that just covers the entire screen and then fades out, kind of, and then you just kind of run with that. Like, this is so much better, and this is, like, such a good change. Like, whoever thought of this, like, bravo, dude. This has been needing to happen for, like, a while. It's one of those things where, like, I didn't necessarily need it. I wouldn't have said, oh, hey, I need this to change. But now that it's changed, I can't go back to the old way. This is, like, one of the best UI changes in any game ever. I love it. It's great. They have won me over on the UI changes, because this one is great. Now, I'm not really into the endgame of SWTOR anymore. I very much fell off it after Onslaught. When they revamped the gearing process, I just had zero interest in it. I have, like, shitty gear at the moment. I just did some, like, aquatic resource matrix farming and got something. But, like, I haven't been doing flashpoints, I haven't been doing any of that stuff. But there have been some gearing changes made, so I wanted to quickly discuss those. The maximum item level of gear has been increased, seemingly to give players who were already invested and already at max rank something else to grind for, which, as far as I can tell, is a good thing. I'm not really a huge fan of the gearing system they implemented, but I suppose that gives players who are still invested a reason to continue grinding. I really hope that they do a revamp, and it's closer to Onslaught, and I like it more, because I would love to play the endgame of this a little bit more. But I'm just really not a fan of the gearing system, and I kind of feel like I've already seen the content, because I have. It's nothing that'll bring you back to the game, but if you're already invested in the game, it might give you something to grind for. I'm not overly sure, because I'm not super invested in the endgame. Now, the other change that they made that's actually really big is that they removed ranked PvP, and people are pissed about this. I'm not really. I've never really liked PvP. I don't really have that much of a stake in it, although I understand why players are really upset about it. But it's really unfortunate that it's being removed, because there is definitely a community of people that really loved that, at least as far as I can tell. And I've seen a lot of people really upset that it's gone, and that's really unfortunate. And it also is sad just because it continues SWTOR's trend of moving away from being a really good MMO and just boxing itself into a corner of being a good RPG with, like, some MMO elements. I really liked this game as an MMO in Onslaught, and I've just kind of liked it less as an MMO as time has gone on. It's really just a shame that that side of the game is being neglected and abandoned for the most part. It's really sad, because this game has so much potential in that area, but it's just not being developed, and I'd imagine that's not the developer's fault. That's not them not wanting to have an endgame. I think it just is the case that they don't have enough resources to do story and endgame, and they know if they go all in on endgame, they will lose, compared to, like, WoW and Final Fantasy and these games that have, like, vastly superior budgets. So they're focusing on story, which is something that has a unique draw because it's the Old Republic, it's Star Wars, and they can do it really well. I just wish that the MMO aspect of the game didn't have to be sacrificed to make that happen. Every time I play SWTOR, I have a really good time, but then I get really depressed, because this game, dude, it's so good, and it could be so much more than it is right now. And I don't think that's the devs' fault by any stretch of the imagination. I almost can guarantee you it's down to them not getting funding from EA or whoever. SWTOR is just not really a priority for whoever's in charge, and it's really unfortunate, because this game is phenomenal, and if it just got support, if it got new flashpoints, more new ops, more new zones, more stuff in general, like, I genuinely believe this game could be one of the top MMOs. With the power of the Star Wars brand and the fact that it's just, like, an exceptionally good video game with a lot of rich history of content, it's just so disappointing that nothing is done with it, and we're seemingly moving in the opposite direction, like removing ranked PvP and all that. Like, I'm not personally affected by this. I don't really care that much, but I think it is an indication of the direction the game's going. Hopefully not, but it really does seem that way. Ultimately, I just try to enjoy whatever we get, but seeing changes like this is really disheartening for the future of SWTOR, and yeah, hopefully they have a really good reason for it. Again, I'm not invested in the PvP community, I don't know, but hopefully they have a really good reason, and it'll make the game healthier, or what have you. I just really hope that they can rekindle that MMO aspect of the game at some point, as unlikely as it seems. So that got negative, but in conclusion, I really do think this patch is amazing. It's really, really good. The story content was awesome. The Daily Hub is really good. Some of the core UI changes are awesome. Everything that this patch brought with it is really, really good. And it's a shame we're not getting more. It's a shame we're not getting in-game content. It's a shame that the game isn't being supported in the way that I think all of us want it to be. But what we are getting is great. It's really good, and I'm really excited for the future of at least the narrative. This patch is absolutely phenomenal. It doesn't revive SWTOR's endgame or anything like that, but it is an absolutely brilliant addition to the game, and I had a blast going through it. I can't wait to go through it on alts, and I can't wait to keep grinding it up. So those are my thoughts on the new patch, Showdown at Ruhnuk. I would highly recommend checking it out if you have any investment in SWTOR, and if you have no investment in SWTOR, I don't know why you're watching this, but you should play SWTOR, because SWTOR is really good. But yeah, if you liked the video, like it, subscribe, and join the Discord, and do all the YouTube things. I am doing unscripted discussion videos for the moment. I don't know how long this is going to last, but if I keep it up, I will definitely be talking about more SWTOR stuff in the future. So yeah, I love this game. I like talking about it. So until then, I'll see you next time.